Plenty of space, a little bit of left and right, which is good. So I've just taken the cooler back out. I actually found that, just angle the camera the right way, Thomas. I was just binding, I couldn't stand it all the way up. I was just caught on the inside edges of these holes. So I'm probably just going to take a good chunk more out. I might even come all the way down to this and just square it off, just so I got a bit more clearance. Alright, so what I did, ended up cutting this way further down, almost flush with this support panel, taking most of the burr off, put on some pinch weld. I've also put a bit of pinch weld on this hose because I didn't want this hose to rub through. There's like a small like folded like pressed lip in there, just had to sand that off just so I could clip that in there. So now put the intercooler in for good, I think. Oh, the other thing, yeah, bolts, sleeves, holes, etc. Yeah, intercoolers, I have test fitted it, so I'm ready to put it in, so let's go. Alright, that's in, good amount of clearance. Around the bottom, this does touch at the moment, but it's obviously, I've got a bit of movement to pull it up, so I might just put a packer under there in a minute before I tighten all these top brackets up. As you can see, it's now through. This side should be fairly straightforward. I know I've actually got to take this cover off the fuel pump. I don't say that in the kit, but that's got to come off. This bracket, whatever it's for, needs to move. I'll do that in a minute. The only thing I'm not sure about is this AC line here, because that hose is supposed to come through here and then bloop bloop click up to there. So I don't know what I've got to do about that bracket, that hose. So we'll investigate that. Alright, update. Intercooler was in. Now, this bracket here used to mount via those two holes. You gotta whoop, swap her over. Comes with this bracket supplied. This actually holds the new intercooler pipe there. It doesn't say in the kit, but it hits this #1 injector line. Actually fouls it really bad. A bit hard to see in there. But yeah, so what I've done is, instead of using the factory welded on nut, I slid this across as far as I could and just put an M5 nut on the back side of that. Turns it enough so there is just a little gap between there. The bracket itself still rubs, so there's nothing else I can do about it. It's as good as it's going to get. Should really be spaced up. I might revisit that in the future. The other thing you got to do is you got to take the whole fuel pump cover off. That's a nightmare. There's a bolt there, wound down there, and there's two others. There's like a top part and a bottom part. So your inlet and outlet, or outlet inlet, whatever it is, 17mm ratchet spanner if you're leaving your main battery in. If you take the battery out, it's a lot easier. I just don't want to. You got to loosen this one off, and this top one, not the cap, the actual banjo fitting, and spin them both towards the motor. I spun the back one enough so it clears whatever this plug is. I just don't want it to destroy that. Doesn't look like it's done any damage to the line behind it, which is good. And then same with this one, just backed it off and pushed it as far as I could. It was pretty much until the fuel line hit that. So now, with all that space through there, put my arm through there, the pipe will come up through. I'm now just going to pull that elbow off and unbolt the little S pipe here, and I'll probably put the driver's side piece in first, and then I'll come through and I'll put the passenger side inlet on. Also, the plastic clips that hold this line just absolutely disintegrated. So I've just got to cable tie that back. And it's actually not the worst thing because you want a little bit of length just to help that line drop down a little bit. So that's off. So I was struggling to get the pipe through here. It was basically fouling up on the butterfly on this vacuum solenoid mechanism thing. And I was like, how do I move that? And then I read a little bit more in depth, and you actually remove this, which is the air inlet heater. Apparently it's not needed anymore, so that's out. And what it says is when you pull the fuel pump cover off, that big bulky, where is it? When you pull this big chunky boy off, the two bolts that go there and there, don't throw them out, you need them. They become the top two bolts up here. There is one last bolt which is the same, I'm going to use it down the bottom. I don't know if there's supposed to be two of these, but there was only one. So I just happen to have one more M8 125 in stock, so I'm just going to use it. So let's put this all together now. Next thing you got to do is plug your sensors back in. Choose that one. Oh, excuse me. And that one. And there's like a vacuum line that goes to a T-piece on the head, which is just there. Put that out of the way. Now apparently this power cable, there is a way to disconnect it over there. Let's go and have a look. So in my case, it is this solenoid. So all it's saying is to, if I can stick you guys, I'll just stick you guys here, hang tight. You're good. All right. Sure. Disconnector here. And disconnect. Apparently, disconnect that one, and it will no longer send anything to that. I'm gonna attach the earth just for peace of mind, just so it's not dangling around. I might just, what I actually found was that third bolt from the injection pump cover, so I just swapped it. But it's small. Probably won't fit on one of those. That's right, it's disconnected anyway. There's nothing really to worry about. So that can stay there. And I actually had to loosen this off because you sort of need to get the pipe on and off, which I'll show you now. So that drops in there. You've got to put a little bend on this line later, which we'll do, but that one goes there. I'm assuming I'll have to bend this AC pipe out of the way, but too. And probably need to cut all of this down, so it's not so much of that high intake, high temp silicone joiner. Just one of those things I've discovered. If you cut that off, this old AC line, without damaging your line, you should be able to get this bracket a bit more out of the way, because what I'm having problems is, if you can see, if I'm fouling up on the hose, I'm thinking I might be able to even get the hose on the inside side and see if that's any better. That's the ticket. Cut that off, bend it in that way. Seems to want to go pretty freely. And then have the AC line on the inside of that hose. I'm going to fit this one back up now and see what it's like. Yep, that is definitely the ticket. Get that AC line on the inside. I also put, not that you can see it down in here, it's a bit tricky. I put a little pencil mark. Just so, let's see if I can get this camera in here. Hold on. So we see that little pencil mark? So when I push it in, I know where to stop putting the silicone hose. That tells me I've got enough for the hose to pass the barb of the intercooler and then I can still get the clamp. It's still about 3mm behind the clamp. I need to cut this one down. It is way too long. Not that you can see it very well. So I had to cut a lot of it. It's been a good minute. Touch that one. Excellent. Mocking all the hoses up. It's pretty much ready to clamp down. This is a little bit of a pain, but hose clamps are in place, ready to go. This sort of has to turn a little, so this lines up better. This little one here sits on a bit of a weird angle. That'd be better if it was a bent silicone joiner, but beggars can't be choosers. Got that on. There's one rogue hose clamp which is small, which is the weird size of the rest. I've got to get it through the slot on that bracket, and then the elbow obviously to the intake. Now that one's a bit tricky to get in. Seems to touch the rocker cover there, but once it apparently does up, it sort of pulls back around to 90. It tries to pull off on this far side. So yes, that's all the piping mocked up. I actually had to loosen off the core, shift it that way just a smidge. It was just so I could get that hose clamp on the right spot. This side seemed to be alright, so it's all good. Now I'm going to use a socket to all these hose clamps up. I'm going to start from the turbo. I'm just going to work my way all the way back around. Yeah, it's nearly there. I did see in the instructions that they actually recommend having that aircon line there, which was good, so I wasn't just talking out my ass. Yeah, it's nearly there, and then I just got to do this one back up. That's the other thing I've noticed actually with this kit, is this is the EGR line. So it comes off the exhaust, the intake, blah blah blah. This is getting a blanking plate, so it'll no longer be recirculating bullshit. But the aircon line sits extremely close to where it is, so I've obviously got it tied up out of the way with cable ties at the moment. I'm going to go and get some high temp lagging to wrap around that, because after a couple of hot days here in Canberra, I don't feel like driving with no aircon again, because one of the lines has got a big hole in it. So I'm just going to wrap it in one spot, maybe two, just to be sure. Alright, hose clamps. Alright, core is solid, AC lines are done, intake pipes are done, bolted up. You can see how it's got that funny little jag in there. That's done up. This one's actually surprisingly got a bit of movement, which is not the worst thing. I might even cable tie it to that just so it doesn't rattle, but at the same time it's not the end of the world if that moves around a little bit. Eventually I'm changing my airbox. Only thing left to do now is put on this lava lance. I've just got to trim that off there, because obviously it's no longer there. It actually goes on. Apparently this gets trimmed as well. Guess we're not done. So trim that off. What I'm going to do now with hammer and dolly, I'm actually going to need a pencil and mark where the end of the core is on each end. I'm just going to hopefully just turning that lip down is enough. Wish me luck. Alright, folds it back up. It was just a matter of folding that lip down and just sort of rolling it along that edge. It's pretty tight, it's still touching the corners a little. I could give it a bit more, but be fine for now. All right, put the headlights back in. Headlights back in. Oh, I did notice I was missing one of these black plastic rubber little things, but doesn't seem to be letting the headlight drop in. As you can see, it's got like 1, 2, 3. And just sort of holds the headlight in place. But that's mostly done. If I close that, looks like one of them sweet old boosty boys. Now, I don't have a grill. I've got a solution for that. Now, what they say in the kit is you end up cutting all the back of this out. But this grill has broken mounting tabs. It's got some big cracks in it. It's pretty beat up. It doesn't actually technically bolt on. It's always been held on with cable ties. So you just, instead of trying to mount that bad boy back on there with its, you know, busted wings, because it's just not happening, I have another grill on order. Now instead of chopping, well, I am still chopping up a new grill, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in place this. So it's just a grill insert. Ordered that from Outback Bandits. He's Matty's Flexi 79. He's got a blue 79 series, but a Gen 2, so it's the wide body front. Used to be a V8, now it is Barrett powered, which is actually pretty sweet. 1000 horsepower capable. So I dig that. He makes these up. They're stainless, just fold tabs, and then they. Nah, you got to chop some bits out, and then they screw in. Same thing. It's still going to be like a cut through here. Chop the side of this out. I'll have to do a little bit of finessing there, but I'll wait till the new grill shows up. Hopefully it's this week, and then I'll install that. And I'll put all that back on the front, and we can call that a done. Nearly done. Alright guys, it's been a couple of weeks. And I know it's really hard to see because the glare is absolutely horrendous at this hour, but I have the new grill installed. All it required was making a huge mess and cutting out a lot of plastic, but it's all fitted now, so it's all pretty sturdy in there. Did require quite a lot of notching. I ordered the 76mm core, the 3-inch core for the intercooler, which is not bad, just they option a 56 and a 76. When you option the 76, you got to take a lot more meat out. It's wafer thin in spots, but it's in, secure, and the car is now ready to go for its major service. It's got injectors and pump coming up, chip and a tune. Yeah. If you want to see that covered, let us know on a future episode of Backyard Builds. See you next time.